So today we are going to be answering the question of which quarterback heading into Super Bowl 56 is under the most pressure. And I know this is a question that is asked every single year heading into the Super Bowl, but I thought it would be fair for me to give my thoughts on which quarterback I personally believe is under the most pressure heading into Super Bowl 56. Now, let's be honest. I don't think it's particularly close on which quarterback is under the most pressure to win this game. I think we can all agree as a public, as a sports fans, that the quarterback under the most pressure to win Super Bowl 56 is Matthew Stafford. Now here's why. Let's look at Joe Burrow's side of things. This is his first full year starting in the NFL. Last year, he completely tore his ACL. His offensive line was garbage then, it's garbage now. But we're not getting into that. But this is his first full year starting after coming off of a horrific injury. And let's be honest, because of what the Bengals did in the draft, drafting Jamar Chase instead of an offensive lineman, nobody really had the Bengals going anywhere this season. They kind of expected them to be, the Bengals as usual because, again, they drafted Jamar Chase instead of trying to improve that offensive line that got Joe Burrow hurt. But as bad as the offensive line is, I think Joe Burrow's quarterback play this season alone took away that fact that, an offensive line is great, but you have a quarterback that's calm, cool, collected, make plays under pressure. That sometimes drafting an elite receiver who can also make plays could be a great combo, at least for the time being. Now, in the future, I think that bad offensive line is definitely going to cause issues in the future because there's only so much you can do for so long with that duo of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase before it catches up to them and they're not able to get much done on offense because the offensive line is bad. But you just look at Joe Burrow and what he's done this season. Just again, the offensive line was so bad. He was one of the most hit quarterbacks, one of the most sacked quarterbacks, and that dude will stand in there and he will constantly take hits every single week, every single down, every single play, and he does not care how many times that he gets hit. He will constantly just stay in there and take the punishment. Personally, I think I've read it a lot. He likes taking hits, and I can completely understand that Joe Burrow loves to take hits. The dude is he's a football player, and that's what you got to appreciate about him. Yeah, some of the sacks that he does take, they're really, really stupid, and sometimes it can seem like he's doing too much, but at the same time, he has the legs and the playmaking ability to get out of those sacks. Like, look at the Chiefs. Like, he got out of so many plays in that game where it looked like he was going to be sacked. And he's a playmaker with his legs. He's a playmaker with his arms. He can get hit 100 times like he did in the Titans game and still come back and help his team win the game. He will stand there in the pocket and he does not care how much time he has. It's just absolutely insane. And he helped the Bengals and led them to a division that was a dogfight all year that at times looked like nobody wanted to win whatsoever. So I think Joe Burrow isn't under very much pressure at all. And then, you look at just what Joe Burrow's also able to do. Like, he throws 3 interceptions in a game and he just completely forgets about it. Like, he can throw 3 interceptions in a game and then come out the very next offensive series and throw a deep pass to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, whoever's out there, and act like it never happened. Like, Joe Burrow has one of the shortest memories in the entire NFL. And I think his swagger, his coolness under pressure is just amazing. Like, his willingness to take shots just in situations where other quarterbacks would fold. Like, he came back from down 21-3. I mean, obviously, as a Chiefs fan, I personally believe that was a Chiefs downfall in their own undoing, and they lost that game because of themselves. They beat themselves. But Joe Burrow capitalized, made plays, helped the Bengals get back into that game. And he has some unreal confidence. Like, Joe Burrow, confidence is unreal. But pressure on Joe Burrow, I don't think there's any pressure for Joe Burrow. No one expected them to be there. Nobody in the beginning of the season were even talking about them. Heck, the team they beat in the AFC Championship game, the Chiefs, that's who everybody was talking about. Everybody was talking about the Ravens before they had all the issues. People were talking about the Bills the Bills had a good season, but people were talking about the Bills, possibly making the Super Bowl. The Bengals were nowhere near this conversation. None whatsoever. But now that they're here, I mean, you look at a team that's not really supposed to be here in the public's eye. I mean, what pressure do the Bengals and Joe Burrow have? I don't think any. Now, the quarterback who is under a whole bunch of pressure and I think has the most to lose if he does lose this game is Matthew Stafford. Played 13 years in the NFL, 12 with Detroit, and in his 12 years, I believe it was, with Detroit, never won a single playoff game. He was 0-3 in those games. Comes to the Rams, he instantly makes an impact, winning 3 straight games in the playoffs, defeating the Cardinals, defeating the Buccaneers, and defeating the 49ers to reach the Super Bowl in a season which the expectations for this team were absolutely through the roof. Like, there's no undenying. Like, the amount that they bargained and gave up for Matthew Stafford to come in to play quarterback for the Rams was just outrageous. They gave up 2 first-round picks, their quarterback, which they had signed to a huge contract, and then more draft picks later on. The bargain for Matthew Stafford early on, or last offseason, was huge. Like, it was a huge risk. It was high risk, high reward kind of thing. Because if this thing flopped, it would go down as honestly one of the worst trades ever. But luckily for them, it didn't come down to that. It was not a bad trade. It turned out to be one. If they can win, they made the Super Bowl, so you can already argue it was a really good trade on the Rams' part. But they have to finish the job. And I think the pressure, because Matthew Stafford, 13 years in the NFL, never could make the Super Bowl beforehand. And everybody says he's an elite, great quarterback. And I think these playoffs just showed in a huge stage that Matthew Stafford is great. He is a Hall of Famer. But there's always going to be that asterisk next to him that he never won a Super Bowl, because he owns a whole bunch of records for most touchdowns, yards, whatever it is in the regular season for a guy at the time who had never won a playoff game. But now that he's there, I think there's a bit of pressure on Matthew Stafford to do it, because personally, is Matthew Stafford a Hall of Famer? Probably. Like, he's really, really good. He's great. He's a great quarterback. But I think him not getting that Super Bowl could kind of haunt him and hold him back. But he did play well in these playoffs, helping his team blow out the Cardinals, helping his team, a team that was literally fumbling it away against the Buccaneers. He helped them, kept them close, and were able to make some great plays in the final couple minutes of that game to help them get into field goal range, win that game, and then to come back down 10 in the fourth quarter, scoring 13 points in the fourth quarter against the 49ers. Matthew Stafford has played great in these playoffs, and I think he shut up a lot of people personally. Like, it's hard to see a guy who's 0-3 in the playoffs before he comes to this team and be like, oh, he's good. Once you understand now that it's the Lions and you look and see what the Lions did this year, you can kind of see that, Matthew Stafford, he's not that bad of a quarterback. But I just think and it's not just a gamble on Matthew Stafford, his career. It's a huge gamble for the Rams, because they literally went all out this entire season to build a Super Bowl level roster. Obviously, they had guys like Aaron Donald already there. They had guys like Cooper Kupp already on their team, Jalen Ramsey. But they added a few extra pieces because they thought, Matthew Stafford, he can be the piece that takes us over that edge to actually help us win the Super Bowl. They added OBJ in the middle of the season. They added Von Miller. Like, as much as the pressure is on Matthew Stafford, I think a lot of this pressure is on the Rams organization, because if they don't win this, they went all out for nothing. Like, as bad as that sounds. Now, if they didn't go all out and get OBJ, Von Miller, maybe the argument's a little bit different, but they went all out this entire season, signing big name after big name after big name after big name to try to win the Super Bowl. And I think for the Rams organization, it would be a failure if they do not win the Super Bowl. But for quarterback wise, I think it would be there's a lot of pressure, I think, on Matthew Stafford to win this Super Bowl, because Joe Burrow is young. He'll be back. He will be back to more and more Super Bowls. I firmly believe that. It's going to be a dogfight. You look at the AFC, you have Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. Derek Carr, what's he going to be with Josh McDaniels? Josh Allen. Burrow himself. Like, the amount of quarterbacks, it is completely stacked in the entire AFC. I probably didn't even mention something. Trevor Lawrence, if he can come around and become great. If any of these quarterbacks from the draft, they come in and they make an impact, the AFC is completely loaded with quarterbacks. So I think as much of a dogfight is with Burrow, I still think there's a chance for Joe Burrow to come back. For Matthew Stafford, who knows if this is another chance for him to come back. In all honesty, whatever happens with Aaron Rodgers, he could end up owning the NFC for the next few years, because if you ask me, what's there left in the NFC? Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott? Like, the NFC is not that big of a challenge. The AFC is a literal dogfight. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Matthew Stafford to win this Super Bowl. And there's more pressure for sure on Matthew Stafford to win this, because I just think Joe Burrow, just the no expectations for them to be there, for the Bengals to be here in the first place. I think the pressure's off. I think the pressure for the Rams, everything they've done, especially going in after Matthew Stafford, I think with all that, I think if we're just looking at the quarterbacks, I think Matthew Stafford is under the most pressure to win Super Bowl 56. Give me your thoughts down below of who you think is the quarterback who's under the most pressure to win Super Bowl 56, Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford. Give me your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.